Russell Wilson's maybe going to hurt us tomorrow. Newsprint Right Option podcast starts now.
Welcome, everybody.
We are live.
My name is Jason Aponte.
I am Andrew Pasquini.
We're working. That's it. We're working over here. That's it. Let's go Niners.
Let's go Niners. Sprint Ride Option podcast. Oh, man, it's a new Sprint Ride Option podcast. I'm Andrew Pasquini, joined as always by Jason Aponte, and we stream today on the day of Tyler's wedding. That's a movie reference someplace. I know that. Italians, crime mobs, all that fun stuff. Shout out Tyler, we appreciate it. We're just starting top with it because this is the biggest news of the day. Shout out Tyler, wedding day today. Want to congratulations. Send a congratulations to you. I'm glad you could squeeze us in on your big day. I appreciate it.
Congratulations, Tyler, man. It's a wonderful achievement. Enjoy your day and enjoy marriage, man. It's a beautiful thing. Not everybody gets to experience that. Make sure you guys like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell for when we go live. Find the Sprint Ride Option podcast wherever you get all your audio podcasts. It's a fun time, Andrew. Back-to-back weeks talking about football. Look at us, man. Like just trucking along here.
I was gonna actually mention something at the top about not football. We talked about Tyler getting a ring. Aaron Judge took a photo with a ring. Now, if the Yankees fire Brian Cashman, would you rather go Theo Epstein or would you rather go Derek Jeter as his replacement?
Probably Epstein. I mean, Epstein basically got two teams off the schneid, right? Like, you know, Boston and Chicago, and the 49ers, the Yankees haven't won since 2009. You know, look, we make a lot of jokes. It doesn't matter who they lose to, but, you know, losing to the Boston Red Sox is the absolute most egregious, terrible thing that I can think of. I'm not having a good time at all, and they deserve all of the slander. Losing to the Boston Red Sox, I don't care if you only win the 19 games against the Boston Red Sox and lose every single one. Other than that, losing to the Boston Red Sox hurts more than anything. I despise them more than any sports franchise in the history of any sport.
Even worse when you have to pay for Apple TV to watch it happen. Just absolutely brutal.
Just stop watching baseball.
I had to pay for Apple TV last week to watch the Giants lose to the Rangers. So
the only thing is this is if you say these words, then it becomes a lot easier to not worry about those things.
Yeah.
Baseball is not a real sport.
Unless the Yankees or Giants are doing good. Hey, the other topic I had on my head, 49er legend Dre Kirkpatrick. I don't know if you saw Dre Kirkpatrick Jr. Announced he is going to go to Alabama for football. I think there should be a new rule where if you played in the NFL in the last 10 years, you legally can't name your child after you, because there's nothing that makes me feel older than a guy who played on the Niners 2 seasons ago having a junior, like Asante Samuel Jr. That's too much for me. Like J.C. Horn, at least there's like separation to where like, oh, he has the same last name as Joe Horn. I don't instantly put that piece together. But like the Asante Samuel Jr., the Dre Kirkpatrick Jr., the baby Gronks out there, like Arch. Oh, no, but Arch Manning's separate because there's no junior. It's just I guess Arch and Archie are the same thing.
Well, once you hear Manning, though, like, you know.
I'm 30, and I shouldn't feel this old because football players are having kids going to college already. It's not fair. I'm 30.
You said I'm 30 like that's old. Anyway,
I'm old.
Thank you guys for joining. You know, we're here to talk 49ers again. Like the video, sub to the channel. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel, notification bell, all that stuff. Andrew, I kind of wanted to start this real quick by talking about the Broncos plan itself, because I actually did write about that today with their starters. You're probably going to see their offensive starters for 20 to 24 plays, something in that range. 49ers legend in my head, Javonte Williams, is going to play 10 to 15 snaps. So that'll be cool. And the starters should be out there for a little bit. So Denver is going to be pretty competitive. Sean Payton spoke about wanting to get those guys rolling and get more of a rhythm going. So I think it's going to be interesting. Will we see the 49ers starters is really the question that should be asked.
Yeah, and Shanahan teased that a little bit. I believe it was yesterday on KMBR where he said, hey, the starters, including Brock Purdy, might play a drive or two on Saturday after feeling like none of the starters were really going to get reps all week. All of a sudden, just kind of casually, it comes out that the Niners might play their starters. I would be very interested in that. Maybe not necessarily Brock Purdy playing, not because I'm worried about the injury or anything like that, because I think Kyle Shanahan would be the smug type of head coach to run Sam Darnold out there and run the exact same play sheet from last week that he had for Trey Lance, just so he has like tape for tape on the two players and what they're doing.
And he can knock away that narrative.
And he can knock away that narrative too. I think that would be the most Kyle Shanahan thing. And that's the only reason I don't want to see Brock Purdy play. But I mean, to get to see the starters for a little bit, once again, I know I've said it about 6 or 7 times in the last 2 months that like football's officially back, but seeing the 49ers starters out there for a drive or two would be a sign that like football's back. And that would be exciting within itself. I don't know if they need to yet. I'm not concerned about it. I feel like it's almost Kyle's tired of this interception narrative as well. He's like, hey, Purdy's going to go out there once or twice. If he doesn't throw an interception, what are we even worrying about here? Because Kyle obviously pays attention to that stuff. He gets somebody telling him this stuff. But I don't know.
Kyle has somebody telling him what's going on Twitter. Kyle has somebody who's like, come on, don't do that. It always seems like see. How I know is when he's in press conferences and he's like, "Oh well, you guys are really good at keeping, what is it, completion percentage stats and everything." Well, how did you know that? Like, why are you why do you know that? And how do you know that? Do you know that because you're reading everyone's columns? No, I doubt it. Probably know it because you've got someone perusing Twitter, or dare I say, Kyle Shanahan has a burner and he's on there. He's looking.
I think it'd be the most Kyle Shanahan thing to have the @Kyle Shanahan account that people like always tag, but just never using it. I think that'd be a pretty like light years ahead burner,
dude.
To have.
No, I like my theory a little bit about this one.
Okay, let's hear it.
There is a guy who has that, right? And he doesn't even like log in. And one day he like logs into it and he finds us all like adding him. Remember there was a time where when the injuries were piling up that I would tag high ankle sprain and I'm like, drop your location, like, where you at. And like that guy is probably logging in. Like, who are these people? What are they bothering me for?
Oh yeah.
I'd like to think there's a regular guy running that Kyle Shanahan account and he finally logs in after like 3 years and he sees all the crazy mean things that people have been saying about him.
Kind of like John Lynch of Sprint Red Option podcast fame that we had on one time. He got that a little bit. Some random guy with the tag @Farhan Zaidi gets a lot of my Giants thoughts sometimes.
There you go.
Dawson Kyle got to have a burner. He absolutely does. He's got to have something going on there. Double B Studio. I'm more excited to see Moody, who is Booty. That's a very easy nickname to have out there. And I'm sure we'll talk about the kicker, right? Jason probably has plenty of notes on the kicker battle that's going on right now.
No, I'm boring. He's going to be fine. I don't care.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I was going to say, you better hope he starts making these field goals because the more he makes, the less we have to talk about a kicker competition. And now the fact that we have to have the idea that Zane Gonzalez is going to get a kick or two in on Saturday, a little concerning. Too much kicker talk, even for somebody who's pro kicker like myself. But that's neither here nor there. Jason, I guess we legally have to start with the quarterbacks. I know it's a position that not a lot of people are talking about. Legally, non-legally, contractually obligated would be the word. To the contract that we've just never signed. We don't have a contract. It's just Andrew and Jason being friends.
Well, we're negotiating with Yard House.
Yeah, no, exactly. Our negotiations are definitely Yard House, and that's what we get the back corner, kind of like the Italian mobsters at Yard House. Yeah, tying it all in. I don't know, Jason, is there any thought you have that nobody's ever had about the 49ers quarterback position at this point?
No, call me crazy, but I just want to see more progression from these guys, even though there's one guy who has a larger sample size than the other. But I'm interested to see Trey Lance, hopefully for the entire second half. That's really what I'd be looking for. Sam Darnold, I don't really think that there's too much more I can learn about Sam Darnold that I don't already know. So, I mean, it is what it is. I think, again, the goal, and it's very boring, is going to be get out of this game healthy. Let's start to really piece together this quarterback competition, whatever it is, and where the pecking order is. I still think all three are going to be here. And let's just get through this game and move on to the next game. Like, that's really it. Like, I'm not going to be able to learn anything about Brock Purdy in one drive. One drive, whether it's successful or not, is going to make me say, oh, my God, he's all the way back. Let's say he throws an interception in the first drive. I'm not going to say, oh, my God, he's a disaster. Like, it's just I have a tough time with preseason, with training camp. So many guys burn bright in training camp and don't do anything. So many guys burn bright during preseason and don't do anything. I think right now the whole goal is just to get guys ready for week 1 and just have as little health issues as possible. That's it.
The only thought I have on it is I hope Brandon Allen gets some snaps. He missed practice a couple days this week. Him and his wife had their first child, which is very exciting. And usually players get that first child bump. Maybe Brandon Allen can carry it his way into a 53-man roster spot on Saturday. A little momentum there. Other than that, Jason, as I said, I don't think I could give necessarily any new thoughts on the quarterback position. I thought Trey Lance was fine on Sunday against the Raiders. I watched the tape. Shout out this guy. Finally learned how to stop the recording of a screen record, so that was pretty cool. IT Jason Aponte helping out there. But like as I said, no. I think would it be a concern if Trey Lance has another game like last week? Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Sure. But until that happens, I'm not too worried about it. Jason, the running back situation.
This one's pretty good. Speaking of running backs.
CB Niners, shout out Corbin. I'm curious why we didn't sign Zeke to be a backup center. Hey, any offensive line depth would help at this point, right? So maybe we'll see.
As long as it's not Il Manning.
Hey, Il Manning is hot in the streets right now.
We're
gonna talk. Speaking of the Manning family, the forgotten Manning. No, Jason, I think the running back on the hottest hot seat right now, and not necessarily in terms of getting cut, would be Jordan Mason. He had the drop. And I'm talking out of the big running backs here because Elijah Mitchell still hasn't played. I have a hard time seeing he's going to lose his positioning because he hasn't played. Both Tyrion Davis-Price and Jordan Mason. I almost called him Jordan Mitchell in my article. You're annoying. Do you think I just said you're annoying? No contact, Jason. Yeah. Thank you for the comment. You're annoying. Do you guys believe Purdy could be a top 5 quarterback in the league? Like some fans, beat writers are saying, no, I don't. At least not at this juncture. We'll see what the season.
And that's no indictment on him. Is that I have a lot of respect for the guys that are in the top 5, and even dare I say the top.
I don't think people realize how big of a step it is from the top 5 from like the top 8. Like that's a big step within itself. And Brock Purdy's nowhere near the top 8.
It's tiers, right? Like you've got your 5 guys that you know for a fact that you'd love to start a franchise around. Don't tell me, I don't care what number you bring up. Don't tell me he's better than Herbert. Don't tell me he's better than Burrow. Don't tell me he's better than Josh Allen. That's it. And then when you get from 8 to 12 to 15, sometimes those guys can stack themselves at 8 or 15 on any given week. So yeah, absolutely not. No chance that Brock Purdy can be a top 5 quarterback in this league. Like 0.
Yeah. And honestly, all the Niners need for him to be is a top 10 quarterback.
Top 10, top 12. If he's a top 12 guy, the 49ers will be fine.
But the reason I say Jordan Mason's the one to concern, he had the drop screen pass against the Raiders that could have been a touchdown. And then he reportedly had another drop screen pass in practice this week. I believe it was on Tuesday. And I know we don't necessarily care for stats, but as we kind of talked about with Cameron Latu, a player who might not make the 53-man roster, drops, penalties, and turnovers are kind of big things. If Jordan Mason isn't catching these screen passes and Jason Aponte, you're the perfect person to talk about the importance of receiving in this running back room. As I said, neither Davis-Price or Jordan Mason necessarily shined against the Raiders. To me, the biggest play that stood out between either of them was Jordan Mason dropping the screen pass. And to me, that might be a cause of concern.
I love you, Andrew. I respectfully disagree.
Yeah, that's okay.
All right. I forget who was talking about it, where they say that Jordan Mason has kind of put TDP in a spot where now he has to do a little bit more, because while he's running, when I was noticing him, he wasn't hitting the hole. He wasn't watching his blocks, and Jordan Mason at least was still doing that and still does that. And then when you talk about the special teams prowess that Jordan Mason has, I think that you have a harder time of like explaining to me that he doesn't make this team. I think Mason's fine.
Yeah, I'm not saying in terms of making the team, because I do understand the special teams. I'm just talking about within the realm of Mitchell versus Tyrion Davis-Price versus Mason here. That's what I'm looking at.
Right, and I think again, whatever the pecking order is, I think you have your locked in 4 guys that are going to make it, and your 5th guy is going to be Kyle Juszczyk, who's actually a running back. It'll be Mitchell, it'll be Mason, it'll be TDP, and it'll be Christian McCaffrey. And I think they'll be fine with that going into the season. And they'll always have somebody that they can call up in a pinch, right? Anybody. So I mean, it just I think that part The only thing that I'm concerned about is like with all the buzz around CDP, with everything that everybody has been saying about him, with how much he's like breaking out and all those things. I didn't really see that too much on Sunday. But again, that is one preseason game. That isn't, an end all be all. But the way people were talking about him, it sounded like what they were saying about Jordan Mason, except Jordan Mason went into preseason last year and actually ripped things up. Like, and that's the thing. It's like, I want to see the play match the hype. And I didn't see that on Sunday, but he does have more time.
Perfect. Yeah, and I definitely am not saying it's end all be all at this point. It's too early in the preseason. The running back situation was one as I said earlier in the podcast a few weeks ago. I'm very interested to see how it plays out because the Elijah Mitchell situation, he has not returned to practice this week. He's done some work on the side the past couple of days, but hasn't been a full return. So I'd imagine that he doesn't play on Saturday. Well, maybe I'm surprised, but I don't think he plays. So that battle's wide open. Another battle that Jason, you called, and I'm actually back on your side on. I said 5 receivers. You said 6. I believe I saw somewhere that Danny Gray, and I see Corbin asking about Danny Gray. I believe I saw somewhere that Danny Gray returned to practice this week. I can't find my note on it. So he did.
He did.
So now you're looking at 6 receivers, right? You have Ayuk, Samuel, and Juwan Jennings is definitely making the roster. I think, and this is my early overreaction to game 1 of the preseason, Danny Gray and Jason Aponte shout out. Chris Conley, I think, definitely have played themselves into a conversation. And Danny Gray's going to make this team. He was on this team last year. I don't think it. So I think it's a full possibility the Niners keep 6. And now the question is kind of like the running back is, they're going to keep all 4. But what's the pecking order? Who's that 4th receiver right now? Very early, Jason, but to you, who's that 4th receiver?
Probably, honestly, Chris Conley at this point because of his run blocking prowess. But Ronnie Bell is making this team. If he continues, I mean, after what he did on Sunday, how can you really, he didn't really wow me with the return stuff. I think Deshaun Jameson, I think you're going to have a hard time keeping him off the 53 because he looks electric every time he touches the ball. But I think when you look at Chris Conley, not only is his receiving chops something that Kyle likes in terms of being a veteran, the run blocking aspect. And that's something that while Ray McLeod was good at, acting like Debo when Debo was off the field, whether it be for injury or just getting a rest or anything like that, I think that they're able to kind of put Conley on the field and still be able to run the football with him and be confident to run his way. So it was those great catches that he made. I mean, Trey Lance put 2 on him that were really good. He's a bigger target, but it's the run blocking aspect that I think is going to put him on this team. And that's kind of always been my contention aside from being a veteran.
Yeah, and I thought Ronnie Bell, you made a fantastic point. He looked good, and he's really, I think he has played into a roster spot as of this second. Obviously, things can change between here and the 53-man roster announcement, but I think Ronnie Bell's performance as well. Double B Studio, over under Purdy scores on the first drive versus the Broncos. I'm going to say under just because I don't think he plays. I think that was just Shanahan saying it just to kind of get the idea out there. I don't think he's going to play. I think he'll get not majority of the reps in game 3, but I could see him getting a prolonged stint in game 3 of the preseason. I don't think he plays tomorrow night.
I'd love to see him play and score because then it would kind of just calm everybody down one way or another, or it would rile everybody up. I don't know, man. Maybe I just like chaos. But yeah, it would be pretty cool for him to get out there for a drive, just score and get off the field, like take off the pads and just literally go put him in an ice chamber or something like that. Yeah. Conventional wisdom would say under, just based on the fact that he hasn't played football in a long time, and Kyle's not going to install anything that's too intricate. Yeah. It's going to be very vanilla. Everything's all vanilla. That's another thing in preseason that you're looking at, and I think that's kind of where the concern with Trey Lance is. It's like, man, these are vanilla, basic, reads, things like that. You're staring it down. You're not letting it rip. Also, you have the context of the fact that he hasn't played football in so long, and he hasn't played football really at all in the NFL. But yeah, you're not really going to see too much. I mean, if you do, it'll be maybe some runs, some handoffs, some one play action. And if it's a 3 and out, then just get them off the field and that's it. Mm-hmm. There's not really too much you can take away when there's something so basic being put in as a game plan. Like the Raiders game plan. They game planned their ass off on Sunday. They went out there and they wanted to show something cool. I mean, I think it was Josh McDaniel has to kind of rally the troops and make sure everybody's still behind him and everything. They kind of wanted to put something good out there, right? Make the Raiders feel good. But, the 49ers don't think that way. They're just trying to get through the game, and they just want guys to, it's not – you're not playing football until you get hit. Yeah. And I think that's kind of what he kind of wants with Brock. Like, he just wants him to feel the hit, and that's it. Like, just go.
Perfect. Thank you for the donation, Double B Studio. Let's move to the tight ends. Sam Darnold went 1 for 7 yesterday at practice.
Not good, Bob.
But it could have been 3 for 7 because not good, Bob, for Cam Latu. I mentioned earlier 2 drops.
He's in his head.
He's in his head, but do you think he's going to get the time to get out of it? Because it's Grant likes to yell about Purdy's daily interception, Grant Cohn, which his videos are elite. I know they rub people the wrong way sometimes.
Love him. Shout out to
the
Grant.
fact that he does them on the field, like leaving the field, just yelling, they're great videos.
Shout out to Grant. That's the best part. That's the best part of training camp. He's just crushing it, man.
To me though, it's almost a daily Cam Latu drop.
Yeah.
Percent chance that the Niners move off of the 3rd round pick and cut him before the 53-man roster. I'm not going to get a yes or no right now from you, Jason, because it's too early. But where are you at percentage wise? Do you think he gets cut?
That would be horrific optics with what you could have drafted. Again, obviously, right? We can do you should have drafted this guy, or you could have drafted this guy, and what if the team was even interested in him? You can always do that, right? So the cows come home, right? But it's bad optics, man. In the 3rd round, you're just going to continue the swing and misses in the 3rd round. Like, it just like you cannot hit in the 3rd round at all. Like, we don't know anything about Tig yet. I thought Tig had a really good play, and that goal line stand as well too. And the kind of thing that you're looking for with him is he around the ball? And every time there was someone getting up from the ground after being hit, Tig was either near or just ready to close on it. So that's always a good thing. But I'd say the percentage right now, you've got to put it at least 45%. Now, you ask me, will they give him a chance to get out of it and build himself back up? They will, but Cam Latu has to do it. It can't just be like, oh, he had a good block. It has to be, we're throwing you the football, you catch the football, and you have to do it immediately. Like, catch it immediately.
And then not fumble it, because that's what happened against the Raiders.
Right. So, like, it's almost like what Steve Young said about Trey Lance, where it's kind of in his head now that he has to every single opportunity be almost perfect because he knows that those reps are fleeting, and it's kind of just been him trying to show something, and he only has a certain amount of reps. Well, Cam Latu, you found yourself in this same position now based on everything that's been going on. So it's tough because no one wants to feel like every single play matters. It should always be the forest view, not the trees. But as of right now, with everything that you put out, the forest is burning, and you've got to be able to put this thing out as fast as you can. So it's a little bit scary.
And it doesn't help. The Niners already have 2, players that have been on the team for a couple of years, for Ross Dwelly and Charlie Warner. So they could, by default, make the 53-man roster because they've been here. But then you got a guy like True Fumagalli, who I thought played pretty. He was
Braden Willis.
Braden Willis as well as behind him. So there's 5 tight ends fighting for probably what's going to be 3 spots. Kyle Shanahan's done 3 tight ends each of the last 2 53-man rosters. So does Cam Latu beat out 4 other guys right now for 2 spots? I don't know. So that's going to be very interesting thing to watch. He's going to have a big game. Speaking of fighting for a spot, is Trent Williams fighting for a spot with how good Il Manning is doing at left tackle?
Yeah, I can't believe I'm going to say this. Trent Williams, you're on the bubble, man. I don't know, man. Like, you watch your back. Watch your back.
No, the interesting thing here for Il Manning getting a lot of attention. Brad Graham had a lot of good clips of him. Chris Forrester already mentioned that he doesn't see him long-term as a tackle. And I think when we talked about Il Manning, in the brief moment that I saw, everything that scouting report said was he's going to play guard at some point in the NFL. Maybe Saturday is the point where we see him at guard a little bit, because I would say in terms of depth, the interior is probably more important than the exterior. And obviously injuries exist. We're knocking on wood because we don't want to talk about an injury on the offensive line. But being the 3rd left tackle on an offense that has Trent Williams as of this second, doesn't feel like there's much upward mobility. So I think it would be very interesting to see if we get some interior line snaps and see what Il Manning can offer from there.
Yeah, and I absolutely love the stuff that he was putting on film, man. He's like literally tossing guys. Now, if you want to play devil's advocate, you can always say, well, that's like the Raiders backups and all those things. But I think when you're undrafted, you've always got to grasp onto every opportunity, and that's it, man. And there's plenty of undrafted people who have paved the way for their career by doing things like that in preseason, whether it's running backs, whatever position, whatever, what have you. So, for a group of fans that freaked out on offensive line depth, this has to make you feel at least a little bit better because, as I stated, on the post game, unless you're planning on all 5 of the offensive linemen to be injured at the same time and then have to play that entire group, you're probably just going to get one guy to pair with the other 4 starters, which is way better. And Kyle Shanahan have a way easier time of getting around that. For God's sakes, man, do I have to bring it up again? He made you believe that Tom Compton was an upgrade over Mike McGlinchey, right? So that's kind of the part where the panic was a little unjustified. When you're looking at it, it won't be all 5 guys out. If it's one guy that's out and you have to replace him, it's not ideal, but it's not the end of the world because you still have 4 other starters there and a play caller who knows how to circumvent that.
Perfect. Yeah, and obviously we had to talk a little Ilm Manning today because as I said, he's getting the most talk. He's hot in the streets. I don't know. We'll see the undrafted free agent out of Hawaii. I don't have much in terms of the defensive line, Jason. Nick Bosa still isn't there. My worry meter is still at a 0 out of 10. I think a deal is going to get done. The one deadline that I kind of was circled was when George Kittle signed his extension with the Niners a couple of years ago. That happened on August 14th, so we're already past that point. So this is the longest, I guess, holdout the Niners have had in terms of an extension. I also saw Javon Kinlaw played some snaps on the edge or on the defensive end, so that could be interesting. Linebackers, obviously a lot of talk with Z Winters and Jalen Graham, a lot of conversation there. I kind of want to fast forward to the cornerback situation because this is.
I did want to say on the defensive line, I want to see Robert Beal. I want to see Robert Beal. Yeah, I want to see Robert Beal. That's something that again, when you're talking about a rotation, is he going to contribute? And now you've got draft picks that may not make the team, so it's like I'd like to see him contribute a little bit, see him get some runs, see what he looks like against NFL competition. That's somebody who I'm going to keep my eye on.
That's a good shout, and also on the defensive line, Kalia Davis. Seems like he's gearing up for a return, so that's exciting. Did you see anything on Drake Jackson? I know they thought he was going to return this week. Did you see if he actually returned?
I don't, but I'm not as worried about that as other guys. I think. I mean, it would be nice to see it because again, like literally what I was just talking about with TDP, I would like to see the camp hype match the preseason play. But I have less worries about him as he's going into his second year. And last year, I saw kind of the potential in him breaking out a little bit, when he was on the field before he hit that rookie wall, like Kyle Shanahan said.
I'm interested to see just the defensive line because it feels like there's already questions with the depth just because of who's hurt. Obviously, Nick Bosa being there feels like I saw they worked out 4 defensive ends earlier today as well. So obviously there might be some slight concern with the depth. I don't necessarily know what's going to happen with those workouts, but we'll definitely see. Jason, to the quarterback conversation, and it feels like a week ago we were talking, and it doesn't feel like it was a week. It was literally a week ago. We were talking about Isaiah Oliver being the number 1 option for the slot cornerback situation. That does not seem to be the case anymore because we are now in what is a open competition with a rotation of Diamador Lenore, Ambry Thomas, and Deshaun Jameson, who's getting a lot of buzz for his return, but also had a decent game in the slot. Jason, the question that I have, and I think there is an answer, who is the biggest winner of this open competition in the slot, and why is it Ambry Thomas?
Ambry Thomas has an opportunity to turn something that we were definitely afraid of into depth.
Yeah.
If somehow Ambry Thomas can play as fast and as loose as he did and kind of build on what he showed in his rookie year, and you can kick in Diamador Lenore inside, who is easily the best nickel corner on this team, easily, hands down, my goodness, this depth that you have now. Because if, God forbid, something happens to Mooney or Ambry Thomas now, you can kick Lenore outside. You can always bring Isaiah Oliver, who, by the way, I don't think is a horrible football player. Like, he just didn't have a very good game. I I think the disappointment is surrounding how he was looked at as, hey, or Steve Wilkes saying, he's the best available nickel corner out there, and we had to make sure we got him. Kind of just put him like right in. But if Ambry Thomas can continue this is quite the development for this defense, because it highlights one of the concerns that I had all offseason when we would talk would be, man, what if something happens to Lenore? What if something happens to Mooney? Now what do you do? But if Ambry can continue to build and be a guy that is turning things around, I mean, it wasn't a great camp, but he looked very good in this game. Looked like a guy who was fighting for his life. Again, the pass breakup's one thing, but getting him to get his helmet dirty on that fourth down, him and Kerry Hyder, that screams a guy who's confident and is playing fast. That's the important part. If you get out of your head and you're not diagnosing and you're just going and you're reading your keys and you're trusting your instincts, that's when you start to play your best football. But if Ambry Thomas can turn into that guy at the end of the year that we saw glimpses of at times and can improve, and you can kick Diamador Lenore in, something that was a concern turns into an immediate strength with this team. And everybody knows that depth is wealth. And if you can have great cornerback room, you can start the conversation of, hey, was that a coverage sack? Or did that defensive line get there? So it's quite the interesting development. And that's why the preseason games are so important. That's why all of those practices are important, because you never know who's going to get a chance to step up.
Yeah, I think if Diamador Lenore wins this nickel cornerback battle, Ambry Thomas is the shoo-in to be the second outside cornerback. And that is a sentence that I think if even 3 weeks ago we were saying we would probably have some concern with it. But it's funny how quick one game, one performance can kind of change that feeling of, hey, he did look pretty good. And he had a lot of opportunities. There was a lot of talk about him working out. What was it with Charvarius Ward, I believe, in Texas? I think that the location's not important. Just know he was working with Charvarius Ward all summer or all off season long into the summer. So that's exciting. I mean, to have a player who's been as scrutinized as Ambry Thomas feel like he might actually not just win the second cornerback spot by default, but play himself into that spot where it's maybe not too big of a concern. That would be huge for this defense. You mentioned it already, Jason, the coverage sack versus pass rush sack. With this pass rush, with Nick Bosa just existing, if you can get 4 or 5 seconds, and I mean that's a lot of time in football today, but if you can get 4 or 5 seconds consistently, it doesn't matter about the depth around Nick Bosa. The sacks will come. The sacks will come. So if Ambry Thomas can work his way into a starting role, that would probably, I would say that would be the biggest story coming out of the preseason camp for the 49ers.
Absolutely. The biggest development. And that's why you love this game. Guys have a spot. Samuel Womack was your starting nickel. Diamador Lenore pushes him right out, and then boom, he becomes a starter. And now here we are talking about bringing him back and putting him back inside if Ambry Thomas can continue. It's so good to have things to talk about that have nothing to do with the quarterback. And Double B Studio says, where's Mosley? He is a Detroit Lion. Yeah,
he is in Detroit. He signed with them over the offseason. Should be a pretty fun secondary, actually, if they stay healthy.
Hell yeah. It's him. They got rid of Okuda, right? Unfortunately, he got injured.
CJ Gardner-Johnson.
And they already have a stud. The other, I'm blanking out. Where's Don Burr?
Don Burr.
Where you at, man? I feel like if we say his name 3 times in the mirror, he pops in Lions versus everybody.
Lions versus everybody. Cameron Sutton.
Yes.
I
like him. He used to play in Pittsburgh. Very good.
Dang, actually, dude. Is Mosley hurt still? Because
I don't think he's all the way back yet. I think again, like this season was supposed to be just getting him under and maybe bringing him on later on, bringing him along later on. Now that now that he's like working himself back from the injury, but I don't think anybody expected him to be there week 1.
Yeah, because he's listed 4th on the Lions unofficial depth chart.
That makes sense right now. Absolutely.
That makes sense if he's good. But if he get healthy, that's a very good pickup for the Detroit Lions. And we're a Lions fan podcast. Just don't know their depth as well as the 49ers, so we apologize. Jason, a little bit on the safeties just because not much. I mean, maybe if the starters play, you get to see a little bit to Sean Gibson, you see a little bit of Talanoa Hufanga. We mentioned Jair Brown, the good play he had. I don't know, just you like Jair Brown. Talk about him, Jason.
Yeah. Look, again, what I looked at was that play on the goal line is just he stays patient. He's not like overly jittery. He's staying in the spot, and he knows when to trigger. And as soon as he triggers, he gets there. He was able to beat somebody to the edge. Remember, the Raiders were game planning. They were playing that game like they were trying to win a regular season game. And Tig saw it, and he drove on it, and he stopped it. Those are the things that we know about him, that he's downhill and he's fast. I think, again, when you're anchoring the back end as a second team guy and you're starting the game now, I think it's a little bit different if you pair him out there and you've got Hufanga and Gibson in a full defense. So I think it was good for him to get up to speed with the NFL, see a little bit. And the Raiders didn't make it easy because they were going so hard. Like, they were playing like that was their lives. But I liked a lot of the things I saw. And always, like how Andrew says about linebackers, how guys are making impacts. Where are they? Where the play ends, and Tig's standing around by the ball, either there or he's under the pile. Like, that's exactly what you want to. That's exactly what you want to hear. So I mean, again, not too worried about it. He'll probably get a more significant run, and I just want to continue to see him grow.
Naturally, Jason, the last position we haven't talked about yet is special teams. I know, obviously, conversation about the kicker. Whatever. Jake Moody's going to be the starter. I don't know where we go from there. He'll be fine. I'm not losing sleep over it.
He's going to be fine.
Just like the percent chance of Cameron Latu not making this roster, as of this second. No, not Zane Gonzalez, Deshaun Jameson. Percent chance he makes this roster, because you mentioned it, that the numbers weren't too kind to him. This is the other side of, like, hey, ignore the numbers at quarterback. It's all about luck. If you go by the box score, Deshaun Jameson had 1 kick return for 0 yards. Had 2 called back, including a 38-yard return, I believe it was, that was called back on a Braden Willis penalty. He easily looked the most explosive. That was the thing that I noticed, his quick cuts. He knew where he was going. Ronnie Bell kind of fell into the issue of, if I just reverse field, it's going to be wide open. And that didn't work in his favor on Sunday. Deshaun Jameson, he knew where he wanted to go. He didn't hesitate. Percent chance that Deshaun Jameson makes this roster, specifically special teams. I know it's a can of worms conversation with the slot cornerback. Just looking at the special teams, do you think he's got enough already to kind of make this roster?
He's a 70%. And I think, again, when you look at his resume in college and you look at what everybody was talking about in camp, you saw it immediately. And you were right. The 2 call back, he would have had a nice little return. It's been a while since the 49ers have had a guy who can consistently do that. He just looks explosive with the ball. He's decisive. He knows how to read the coverages. He's been doing it for a long time in college. I think you're going to have a hard time keeping him off this roster at this point. I've got it at 70%, but I would be way closer to 100 than that if I just, wanted to be a little bit more patient like I am right now. But yeah, I think he's got to meet this team.
Yeah, if he shows that explosiveness on returns again, I just by the eyeball test, man, I feel like he's got to be on this roster. And then I guess the final question, it is about the kickers. Do you think Jake Moody even gets an attempt? Because I don't see there to be a way to guarantee Zane Gonzalez a field goal attempt this game if Jake Moody goes out there and takes the first field goal. Because if you get 1, there's no guarantee you get 2. Or is it a situation where, like, Zane Gonzalez gets 2 attempts like Jake Moody? And is there extra concern if you don't see Jake Moody on Saturday?
No, not at all. I think they go right back to him. That's the best thing to do. Don't let the kid think about it. You don't want that kid to turn into the Browns kicker that they drafted. Oh, wait, drafting a kicker isn't good process. Hello, Cade York. Did you notice what he did yesterday? I mean, Jake Moody's going to be fine. Let's just make sure we get back to that. But Cade York yesterday is a kicker that the Browns drafted, I believe, also, if not in the 3rd round, the 4th round, which is still a very valuable pick. Yeah. And Cade York at halftime on Instagram posted his own highlight of making a kick and then proceeded to miss the next 2 kicks after that and lose basically the Browns this preseason game, while they've already been concerned with his kicking. Possibly Andrew Pasquini, just maybe, might just be the drafting a kicker's poor process. But Jake Moody's going to be fine, guys. I guarantee it. Guarantee it. He's going to be fine. But Cade York is the case study of kickers aren't people. Find them at Trader Joe's and make sure that you just have them kick. Like, the little Giants found the kid who was their kicker. He was just kicking balls off of a can. Like, use that guy. Like, use that as an example, right? Like, drafting kickers with draft capital when you could have drafted an actual football player is such poor process. It's so bad that even now you're watching other teams say, Why on earth would you do that? And even the Cleveland Browns are like saying that, man, this really sucks. Everything sucks for the Cleveland Browns. And they're like, man, this really sucks.
Jason, we just went through all the positions. Was there anything that was on your mind that was missed? Jordan Elliott Sports, my hands are raised high in the air because of Jason pulling those guns out.
It's just really hot. It's just really hot. That's all. That's it. Really.
It's hot in Sacramento too, but don't be careful saying it's hot here because people would be like, "Well, you should try living in Arizona," because that's just the number one response I get when I complain.
I don't want to do that.
Like, I don't want to do that. It's hot enough in Sacramento. That's why I complain about the heat here.
I visited for the Super Bowl. I don't want to live there.
No,
like what the
not
hell?
at all. Not at all. Not at all. Yeah, Jason, do you have any thoughts that we might have missed before we get into the all-important preseason predictions?
No, I think everything's going to be fine. Again, regardless of Brock Purdy plays, if he doesn't, there's not really too much you can gain from these things. But first of all, Charlene said, I will forever love any Little Giants reference. And thank you. I had that one in the chamber. But I am, and if there's an L missing, this is Il Manning himself. Random and off topic, but Andrew predicted the exact outcome of Poirier, and I don't know how to pronounce that. A couple weeks ago.
Hey,
now we need Sterling versus O'Malley. It's your time. This is your thing.
Yeah,
Go for it.
So Goth G, obviously the correct pronunciation of that name, scored a second round knockout of Poirier. I didn't even remember I made that prediction. I just remember saying Goth G got the knockout. To get the second round knockout, I'm gonna go a little more boring with this one. I'm gonna go Sterling by anonymous decision. Or unanimous decision, not anonymous. We know who the refs are.
Anonymous decision.
Unanimous decision.
It's gonna be three guys in cloaks with you can't see their face. They wins by anonymous decision. I'll be like, well, who voted?
Who made the decision? Who made the decision? It's the electors down in Florida that's making the decisions. No, Jason. Yeah, I'm just listening. I'm at that point again, kind of like I am in the second week of training camp. I'm ready for real football games to be back. But these work. I'm genuinely excited to see what the Niners look like tomorrow. Yeah. I know it's not going to be the first string, at least if it is not too long. But I'm excited to see what Sam Darnold brings as a starter. He did make the best throw. I'm LOL, put your bets in now. That's not gambling advice. I think I legally have to say that's not gambling advice, but I did nail the last one. 100% on my UFC prediction. That was the first ever UFC prediction I've ever made.
And the funny part is it was the night of that fight, the other boxing match, and I was watching that, and then we cut it onto that thing, and I get a bold all caps text message from Andrew. I literally said that was what's gonna happen, and then he pulled the clip.
I pulled the clip, yeah, because I remember because I saw the tweet that Goth G or whatever got the knockout, and I'm like, I said that, so I sent Jason the text like, oh my god, he knocked him out. I got that right, and then I was like, did I specifically say the second round? So I went back, found the clip, and it was the second round. So we're hot in the trail. I also said over on the Niners Raiders. So ooh, you can't gamble here legally in California, but Axel. Appreciate you. Prem on Saturday football. The Wolverhampton Wanderers, they got Brighton tomorrow. They got screwed on Monday. Question for Jason. Who is the 49ers equivalent to Liverpool signing Arturo Endo?
It's literally like them signing Quan Alexander. I have no idea what I'm talking about at this point. Is that wrong?
Liverpool has had some issues signing players. They made an offer to a player, and I forget the name. Jordan will remember if he hasn't blocked it out already. The highest transfer agreement for a player in Premier League history, $114 million. I forget to the team. I think it was to Brighton. And the player declined the offer because he wanted to go to Chelsea. And so Chelsea had to offer the same amount of money. And then a week later, Liverpool came into agreement with another player for less money, and the player turned him down again when Chelsea stepped in and was like, no, we want him. So Liverpool's missing out on everybody. Paul, shout out. That was a fair decision. Stop hating Andrew. Yeah, Wolves got
stop
screwed.
Hating, man. I don't even know what you're talking about.
Paul's a Manchester United fan, so he's biased. Just so Wolverhampton Wanderers, 97th minute, have a chance to tie the game. And Manchester United keeper just egregiously runs through Craig Dawson and Sasa, but they didn't even go to replay. Wolves had a PK. It's okay. It's whatever. I'm used to Wolves getting bad calls, Jason. We're officially talking Premier League. Can you give me your final score prediction for all-important Week 2 49ers Broncos preseason game?
God, what the hell?
It's preseason for the podcasters, man. We got to get those score predictions out.
17-14 49ers. I think Russell Wilson scores a touchdown just to screw us over and just make us mad. He is going to play for about 20 to 25 snaps. So that could be 2 drives. I think that one of them is going to end in a touchdown drive because I don't think the 49ers starters are going to play. But I got the 49ers 17-14. And also, if I can add like one little like note, who cares, man?
Who cares?
That's Rich Madrid's.
I'm gonna go 49ers 23. Seahawks, Broncos 2. Obviously, all important too. The reason I say the Seahawks is actually Sean Payton to light a fire under Russell Wilson's ass because there's a little bit of a hot seatness going there. And Sean Payton, a psychopath he is as a head coach, he's actually going to bring Pete Carroll out for the second half to play quarterback, just to show Russell Wilson how easy.
That wasn't a Cialis commercial.
And so Javi just with the wild, just like bonk. I would call that a bonk. Dropping the Cialis reference with the Pete Carroll video. But Pete Carroll is going to come out play quarterback for the Denver Broncos in the second half. Niners win 23-2.
I love that, man. Yeah. All I smell right now is the season is almost there, very close. And I smell this wonderful pizza that's in this kitchen right now. And I am like literally like
I'm getting pizza for dinner tonight.
Hey, look at us.
Look at us. Italians and Puerto Ricans getting pizza. We love it. Gabba Yagool. Is that it? Are we done? We done?
Yeah, I think that's it.
I guess so. Okay.
Shout out to everybody in here, man. Make sure you guys like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell for when we go live. Make sure you guys are subscribed to everywhere that you get your audio podcast from Right Option. If you miss us live, you can listen to it in the car. This is a curse-free episode, so you can listen with your kids. I love that for you. That's kind of why we did it. But, Andrew, 23 days away from NFL kickoff.
Yeah. I'm heckin' excited. And see, I didn't cuss to keep it up. Jason, I'm assuming you're going live after the game tomorrow?
Yes, I am.
I will not be here celebrating my mom's birthday.
Might be by myself. Might be with a guest. Might be with Jordan Elliott. I don't know. I got to call up NBC to see if it works. I'm going to ask, see if I can pull some strings. But yeah, I'll be on live after the game to talk. Perfect. So I'll see you guys then.
We'll be back Monday as well. Jason Aponte, as always.
Let's go Niners, and the Yankees stink.
Let's go Niners and Gabba Yagool with the pizza.
Welcome, everybody.
We are live.
My name is Jason Aponte.
I am Andrew Pasquini.
We're working. That's it. We're working over here. That's it. Let's go Niners.
Let's go Niners.
Welcome, everybody.
We are live.
My name is Jason Aponte.